YouTube, what is up, everybody? We are back. Well, I'm back in the shop. The wife may or may not jump in here and there, but after taking a little time to go mess with Justin's new little wagon, which I don't know if that video is going to show up before or after this one, I needed to actually put a little bit of time in working on my stuff, right? So today's plan is pretty simple. What really needs to happen is we need to tear the front end all apart so we can put the, start the gasket conversion up front. But because I have the wagon still all blown apart, I'm not quite ready to tear the front end off of this just yet. So I'm going to move out back and we're going to radius the wheel wells. Because, it's not a gasser until you've cut the wheel wells out of it, right? I mean, in my opinion anyway, there's two things that really make any car have the right gasser look. Now, I know technicalities of racing and everything, it's not a requirement, and some cars have the space so you don't need to cut them. But this one doesn't, and on a Chevy II, it's definitely not a gasser until you've, at least aesthetically in appearance, it's not a gasser until you've radiused the rear wheel wells and put a straight axle up front. So right now we have done neither. But let me show you what I got my hands on and the approach we're going to take. And I don't know if it's going to work yet, so you're along for the ride. So as I had mentioned in the last video where we did a little bit of fit up work with the wheels that I picked up at the swap meet, which are really growing on me, so we probably are going to have those weld up the unilug pattern on them and have them re-drilled properly so that I can actually run these after I do some cleanup work and everything on them. And but I managed to find, or not find, but get my hands on a set of 27 by 10 slicks that are on a 15-inch wheel, which I haven't measured the backspace to see if it's the same as my ETs. So I'll do that after this video clip just to see, that way at least I know. But having those on hand gives me an opportunity to be able to fit up what I want to run. Being a 27 by 10, or sorry, these are a 28 by 10, 15. So we're going to find out if a 28 is going to work, or if I have to go to a 27 before I buy any tires, since I have 28s right here. So the setup here, yep, I got a little bit of stuff going on, and I'll show you how I got here. But what I've got is, well, I'm going to put this down so I can show you how this works. Hold on. All right. So as you can see, I've got this panel right here that is clamped onto the wheel, and you can see there's marks on the wheel. And you can see there's a couple more marks on the wheel that are pretty close to 90 degrees different, but they're actually not. And I can show you how I ended up with my marks. But that's how I found center. And this mark right here at the center is my center line. And then I basically created I guess you could call this a compass. It's basically a circle template is what this is going to be. And I hold this guy right here at the center, just like that, and then stretch this out and can swing it around so that I can get a mark on the quarter where to cut. Now, that's not exactly what I have in mind for the cut. I think I'm actually going to want to be up a little bit higher at my finish point. But with anything, once you start cutting, it's a lot harder to put it back. So you always want to cut a little bit short. This cut line is at 27 inches off center line of axle. So I use center line of axle, went out 27 inches, which means that technically those should not fit in this wheel opening just yet when I make this first cut. But that's okay. That's where I want to start, because I can always cut more a lot easier than I can put it back. So once I get this cut made, and I'm really not a fan of where it lines up down here with the body line, so that's part of why it needs to probably going to need to be opened up. And right now it is a true circular radius, and we may alter that a little bit once we start seeing final fit up and I start trimming the extra away to get it where it needs to be. But it's a good starting point anyway. So now here comes the interesting part is most of us, I say most because there's probably people out there who didn't, but most of us took a class in high school, which for me, I got out of high school in 2004. So 20 years ago. Holy crap, it's been 20 years already. Anyway, in high school, you took a class called geometry. And let me tell you what, most of us looked at what we were being taught in geometry, triangles and math stuff, and we're like, yeah, I'm never going to use that. And some of us may have went on into careers that did use some of that. And ironically, I'm one of those. I did end up in a career field where geometry and trig actually have some value in my career field. But what I'm about to show you on how to find the center line on a wheel is straight out of basic geometry, and it works. It's super easy, and you actually don't have to do any math. That's the key part of what I'm about to show you, is no math involved. All you need to do to find the center point is you need a ruler. A basic 12-inch ruler will work, and you're like, yeah, it's a 15-inch wheel, it won't reach across. It doesn't matter. A 12-inch ruler will work. So a marking device and a square. And this is a speed square, commonly used in construction, like house construction, wood framing, that sort of stuff. But it's a square, and it'll work. But if you have a different square, like a machinist type square, one of little things falling out, one of these little doohickeys, which I could put on that ruler. But anyway, you need a square, a ruler, and a marking device. And you can find the center, and a string or a straight edge that is long enough to span the wheel. It doesn't have to have any sort of dimensions on it. Like this straight edge right here, there's no dimensions or anything on it. It doesn't have inch marks or anything like a ruler, but you can find the middle of that because it's just a straight edge. You just need a straight edge. So let me put this down real quick, and I will show you. Hold on. I gotta find something to prop this up a little bit so you can actually see what I'm doing. Hold on. Okay, I'm gonna try and do this so that it's easy to see, but hopefully it's not difficult to see and I get the idea across, or if you have questions, you're welcome to ask. So this ruler, it's just a standard 12-inch, and it is true square. This is a true square 12-inch on both ends. It doesn't have that little bit of extra, which ultimately that matters but doesn't matter. The only reason it matters is because we already know that 6 inches is dead center of 12 inches, and all you need to know is the center point on your line. So if you take this and you put it across, so the corners, right, nowhere near the center, put it across so that the corners of this ruler, where it's exactly 12 inches, are at the lip of the wheel, right? And then you mark it right there and right there, so you know where your ruler was, so you can back check. This is where your square comes in. You hold your ruler right where it's at. You set your square lined up with, see, and what helped initially, and I don't have more clamps to do it, but I need to pause my TV because I bet you it's picking up those other voices, and I've got some drag week stuff going. There we go. Get that paused. Because motivation. Watch drag week stuff while working on a car. That's going to be for a drag and drive. So let me let's see. All right, we're back in frame. Okay. So what I did is I marked where it's at on either corner, and I used my 2 clamps that are over here on the wheel that's mounted on the car. When I was marking that one, I actually clamped the ruler right here so it wouldn't move on me. And then I took my square and lined it up with my 6-inch mark, so that now that gives me a point between these 2 locations. It's close enough for demonstration anyway. Not perfect, but nothing is. So now I've got a mark. That's my center mark. This is the important one. The only reason to have these two is so you can double check that point right there, okay? Then what you do is, with your ruler still in place, you take a straight edge, or you can do it with a string. It's easier with a straight edge because it's gonna stay where you put it, but you take it and you line it. I'm trying to keep my arm out of the way. That new mark you made with the square, you line it up on that mark, and you line it up on that 6, on the 6 mark on the ruler, right? So I'm right there, and I'm gonna lay right across my 6 and come straight across the wheel. So as long as it's on the 6 and on that mark, then it's square as it hits the other side of the wheel. And then we can let go of that end, and I'll pinch it right there so I can mark this side. Okay. Now I've got a line, a theoretical line anyways, an invisible line across my wheel right here. That goes straight across the center of the wheel. The dead center right there, that's the true center point of the wheel. So if you take and imagine, that's what I did here, and now this plate that's on here, this thin piece of whatever this is, you probably can't see what I'm pointing at because of where the camera's at. Get out of my way. So this plate is doing the same thing I just did with that shoestring. It's going from this mark to this mark across there, and I took and measured with just a good old tape measure right across this plate from mark to mark, or edge of rim to edge of rim, however you want to look at it, and found the center point in a straight line, and that's what I marked right here. That's now my true center point in line with the center line of my axle with the wheel bolted up. So from there, I was able to do my string method, swing that around, and radius, get a template line on my quarter for where I want to cut. So that's geometry 101. We actually learned that. Yes, we were taught. Whether it was learned or not is a whole different story, but we were taught this in high school. Maybe. Kind of. Probably. I don't remember. It was 20 years ago. But I did remember this method of how to find center on a circle or an arc when you don't know where the center is and all you have is a straight edge. So this works. It will find the center if you do this. If you want to look the method up, this is where I get a little nerdy because I actually know what I don't know what the technical name of it is. Never mind. It has to do with using a chord length of an arc or a circle to find the center point. So if you Google something along the lines of using chord to find center of circle or using chord to find center of arc, you should be able to find, a much more in-depth explanation on how this works and why it works. But it does. It works. You need a ruler, a string or a straight edge, and a square. You can find the center. No biggie. So let's move forward. The plan here is to do some zippy zappy zappy cutting, get this out of there. I'm gonna start with death wheel, and basically that's just to create my initial cut. Once my initial cut's in and I've got somewhere to go, I'm gonna switch to a body saw, because trying to start a body saw on a outside of a body panel is kind of difficult. So that's why I'm gonna death wheel it in down here, where I'm gonna have, at this point, I'm gonna go from basically the rocker line right here. I am gonna go straight down. I'm not gonna have it curve back in. So I'll death wheel that open and then body saw up this way, and hopefully that'll work. Hopefully that'll give us a reasonable result. I think the body saw is gonna be less destructive and less likely to kill me than the death wheel will, especially since my death wheel tool is archaic. and also doesn't have a guard. So this is a rather dangerous tool to actually use. And I don't use it very often for that exact purpose. Look, it even shows, on the death wheel, it's got a guard on there. And if I had a guard, I would definitely have it on for this, but I don't. I think this came from a garage sale or something, because that's where I buy stuff, secondhand, beat up, old used stuff. As long as it works, I'm good with it. Anyway, that's the plan. As you noticed, I'm going to be doing using pneumatic tools, which means it's going to make a whole lot of noise. So it's probably all just going to be time lapsed with a little bit of jams going, and maybe you'll hear some pneumatic cutty sounds going on. Or if it's really obnoxious, then I'll just mute out all the tool noise. And yeah. Anyway, I'm going to get the wheel off and out of the way so that I can make this cut. And yeah, that's that. Well, no turning back now, right? No, but really, that actually wasn't too bad. First off, I mentioned, and I don't even know if it'll end up making in the video, but I mentioned that my air compressor wasn't keeping up when I first started using the body saw. Turns out that wasn't the case. It was user error. The regulator on my compressor was set too low. So anytime that this caught, any sort of bind up, it just stopped. And I thought I was low, and the compressor was running because, it uses a lot of air. But, so yeah, I thought the compressor wasn't keeping up, but turns out it was just the regulator was set too low. Went and checked that, turned it up a little bit to where it needed to be, and this actually worked great. So, the one thing I will note with this is I did take, this has a nose guard on it that is adjustable in depth, and that's as far in as the nose guard goes, which was not giving me enough reliable cut depth. It looks like it should have been. If I was hard up, I don't know. I was fighting it with the nose guard in there, being able to cut through both the outer quarter skin, and the inner wheel well. So I ended up just taking the nose guard off. I probably don't know that I'll ever put it back on. Once that was off, I was able to get through both layers in the same cut sweep. So that worked out. This this little body saw was 25 bucks. And blades weren't included. They were like another $5 or $6 or something like that. Harbor Freight special. I mean, I'm not doing this every day. I don't need a tool that can do this every day and be abused over and over again. So a $25 tool to make my life easy for a here and there use. This thing actually worked out really good. You know, or we'll say $30 because of the blades. But yeah, that's a Harbor Freight special. And I'm not disappointed. And I'll be happy to tell you that if I had to do it again, I'd buy it again. So this is the piece I cut off of there. And one of the things that I could have done that might have made my life easier would have been to drill out or cut the bottom of this, or grind a slit and separate the inner from the outer. But I didn't want to do that because this area right here, top of the wheel well, is not an uncommon area for Chevy IIs to start to develop rot. And this piece doesn't have any rot in it. And I happen to have a couple other Chevy IIs around, and one of which I know, I don't remember if it's the driver or the passenger side, has bubble paint right here. So I am going to preserve both of the cutouts, the drops off of this car, as potential patch panel material for another car. So that's why I wanted to keep it all together, because I could basically take and section part of this and be able to, you know, weld it on the outside, weld it on the inside, on both sides and whatnot, and still have a good, you know, right up to factory stuff. So anyway, that's the drop. That's the cut. The rough cut's in there. I did come back and clean it up a little bit with a flat disc, just to take some of the edges off and get a couple of the low spots where I walked off my line a little bit. But the goal was not to cut out of the line, but to cut short of the line or at the line, because it's a lot easier to take more material off than it is to put it back on. So that's what we did. So now the question is, will this fit in there? And I suspect at the moment I'm going to have to probably jack it up a little bit, because I think it's sitting too low. But let's... Oh, buddy. We have a gasser. Almost. Okay. I want that one. These don't poke out quite as far as my other wheels do. How can I get it to look semi-right? Ooh, I know what to do. Check it out. We're gonna slide this out of the way. Now, don't worry. I am not gonna drive it or move it or even put weight on it with what I'm about to do, but I'm gonna use two lug nuts, one here and one here, as a spacer, because I still didn't actually measure the offset on those wheels and they clearly don't poke out as much as the wheels I plan to run. But I'm going to zip these lug nuts all the way down, and then I'm going to put the wheel up against them. Go. It needs a third one. Oh, don't fall on me. I swear, I have no clue what I'm doing. I've never done this before. Well, I've never done this lug nut thing before, but I've also never radiused a wheel well or any of this gasser stuff. This is the first. I promise. I will continue to learn. There we go. That's better. That puts it where it needs to be. Needs another lug nut. Hold on, let me get another lug nut. Check it out, guys. I think for a first time ever having done this, that's not too shabby. That fitment's almost exactly what we're after, and I'm actually, my rough measurements of what I thought I could run with clearance was a 27, but this is in fact a 28 by 10. And if I plan to do a little more cutting up here, just a little bit more clearancing, but I have about another inch to the inner fender well to the front. And overall, this clearance here is actually pretty good. And you can see I got a pretty good radius. It looks a little weird right here because of the body line. I'm not sure if there's anything I can do about that to make that look a little less weird. But overall, looks like it could use just a little bit more cleanup right here in that region. But the fitment's there. We can, in fact, run a 28. That's gonna fit. And the car the weight is on the springs right now because it's sitting on jack stands under the axles. So this is with the weight on it. Now, what I will tell you is that, sorry, I had to pause the camera for a second and flip it around. I am aware that when I launch the car, when we take off, that it's gonna wanna squat. And I understand that. So this gap that we have right here, this all of ½ inch, gonna need to grow a little bit. We'll probably stretch this out another ½ inch. So we got about a 1 inch gap right here, at least to start with. And from there, we'll take care of the rest in the suspension once we find out what the car wants to do. Maybe some adjustments in the leaf springs and that sort of thing. But it looks like this is right along where we actually want to be, and the look is good, other than these wheels tuck in a little more than I would like them to. But that's not a problem because these are just mock-ups. So I was after knowing where the height was going to be at, and I've got this wheel about 1 inch off the drum with those lug nuts I shoved in behind the wheel, and which should be pretty close to what my wheels are gonna be. And you know, I don't hate it. I don't hate it. Take a look from further back. Well, guys, this is where I'm gonna call it quits for this video. I still got to cut the other side, but there's no new excitement for doing that. You've already seen the method I'm going to use, how I'm going to do it, how I marked it out. I'm going to use the same tools, and I'm going to cut the same radius in it, which is a little tight on the 28s, as we already talked about. But I think it's the ideal place to start, at least for now. Until I get the tire that I'm gonna run. I mean, it works with these mock-ups, but from one tire to the next, they can vary in size a little bit. And since my wheel is gonna have a different offset on it, it's gonna bring it out just a little bit. Which, I mean, I've took and shimmed this one out just a little bit. So let's see if I turn this way, you can see what it looks like down the body line. Since I shimmed it out a little bit, it's really close to where my wheel is going to end up, or whether I use the pair that I have, or if I get another pair, it's going to be the same offset as what I've got. So that's really close to where my wheel is going to end up. But seeing as it's, you know, slightly different and it's just shimmed out to be at the same back spacing, I don't want to overcut. That's the one thing, and I said at the beginning of the video, measure twice, measure a third time. Undercut, you can always take more material off. Putting material back on is much more challenging process. I mean, it's doable. It's just a quarter panel, right? And to the purist out there, I'm sorry. Yes, I just cut non-rusted quarters on a 63 two-door hardtop, which might actually be a Nova trim. I'm not sure. I don't know. You know, I should probably check the VIN and see if this is a car that's going to make people really mad that I cut. Oh well, it's already cut. I really don't care, and I absolutely love it. Again, like I said earlier, it's the first time I've ever radiused wheel wells, and it's obviously not finished. There's going to be some more cleanup work done on it. I'm undecided if I'm going to do what some guys have done, where they've reworked this body line right here, reworked that so it runs over the radius, or if I'm going to leave it real raw like this. I kind of like the raw look because it's more race car, less show car kind of deal to it. It's, you know, do what's needed to go racing, not the other stuff and the other bodywork stuff. But I'm torn. I like the look both ways. So, but that's it. I'm real happy with how it came out. I think the tool choice of using the body saw was absolutely the way to go over using death wheel. It was a lot less messy, wasn't throwing sparks in my face the whole time. And the body saw, worst case, if a blade breaks on that, it just breaks off and falls to the ground, versus a death wheel that you hit something wrong or tweak it and it explodes and shards of, well, fibrous cutting material go everywhere, hence death wheel. But I think it worked out great. The measurement method is on the money. I think the approach I took for getting center line, measuring it out, and marking it, I think that worked out real well for me. The gap, other than where it transitions at the body line, it looks a little bit different, but it actually measures the same. But the gap's equal all the way around. I know it also looks a little weird back here, but that's because this is the original quarter. It didn't cut down in here, as you probably saw in the video. Didn't cut down here. The cut stops right here, and from here to all the way up here, the gap is the same all the way through. So I think that worked out well. I'm real happy with it. Like I said, I still got to do the other side. That may or may not happen today. It's Sunday afternoon, and yesterday was a full day of stuff, so kind of want to chill before work tomorrow, and I probably should do some video editing because I got lots of video this weekend because of this and the work we did yesterday. Anyway, that doesn't matter. I'm happy with it. Let me know what you think. Comment down below. If you've got a great way of radiusing wheel wells, or how you do it, or other things that need to be addressed when it's done, I'm all ears. Doing this gasser stuff, I'm as wet behind the ears as you can get. This is the first time I'm ever building one. I'm good at doing research. I look into stuff a lot and study it. I talk to people, but I'm more than happy for any input you've got as far as means, methods, and things that make a difference when it comes to building the gassers. Because if you haven't heard, if you didn't notice it anywhere else in the title of the video or the description or the previous videos with this car, we're not only planning to race it, but we're planning to drag and drive it, which means we've got to account for a lot of road miles, and we got to make it work on the track. So I'm all ears when it comes to suggestions and means and methods for getting there. But that's that. This side's radiused. It's got the right look. I'm stoked. I'm real happy with it. So hopefully by the time we do the next video on this car, I'll have the other side already radiused out, and that'll be taken care of, and we can move our attention to the major work that needs to take place up front. Before that's going to happen, we're probably going to come back over here and do some work on the wagon. I did get the inner fender well kit in that I've been waiting for, so that's coming up. And I think other than that, and I got the transmission parts I was waiting for. So now I've got a lot of parts, which means it's time to actually start putting that car back together. And yeah, as we start getting that one back together and the engine stand starts clearing up and parts start clearing off the shelves, it gives me a place to put the parts off of this car while we redo the front end of that one. So a lot going on, and we're going to be super busy. It's also swap meet season is basically, it's here. So we're going to be doing swap meets as much as we can to try and find deals on parts, as well as working on the cars every weekend as much as we actually can, physically do within reason, because I want the wagon on the road this year. I want to be able to go drive it over the summer and enjoy it. And I'd love to be able to take it to the swap meets because, wagons are great parts haulers. And then the race car, I want it on the track by the end of the summer. I want to be able to start running it because I'd love to do a drag week next year. But you can't do a drag week if you haven't actually you shouldn't. Lots of guys do it and more power to them. But you should, do some testing on a car, both on the road and at the track before you go to a drag week. It can really spare you a whole lot of headaches. So I've seen. But anyway, I appreciate you guys tuning in. Maybe you learned something, or maybe you know something that I should know. Either way, I hope you enjoyed the video, and we will see you guys on the next one.